is a government machinery. Take note of that. The regulatory policy is a government machinery formulated deliberately to impose controls and restrictions on certain activities and behaviors, right? So regulatory policies are public policies. In most cases, regulatory policies are public policies which are designed deliberately, right, to bring about or impose controls on certain activities or restrictions on certain activities. Can you come up with the or behaviors? Can you come up with an example of one of, if you know any, of the regulatory policy? Nothing. There are plenty of them. Huh? MACRA is a department, is a government department. Eh? So it is a regulatory, it is created because of a regulatory authority, a policy somewhere, right? To control certain things. So yeah, Jeff, what does MACRA do? MERA was also created as a regulatory department for certain products in government. So that government has full control on what is happening. Talk about MERA is the fuels, MACRA is the information, whatever, these are things like that, right? So the government has the right to control those things instead of leave it to private companies. They can do anything, right? But now MACRA cannot do anything outside public policy. But is a regulatory organization created by a regulatory policy, which is part of the public policy around. There are quite a lot of those. COSOMA, what, how do you do? MRA is what? Malawi? MERA, is what? Malawi? Yes. That one was created by a public policy to regulate all the income derived from the customs issues, taxes, and all sorts of things like that. So a regulatory policy is a public policy and is a government machinery which controls and restricts certain activities and behaviors. And that's what it is. So if you look at this, you'll find that you have several of these organizations. They call them MDAs, government departments. They are slightly independent. They're statutory, right? When it says statutory, it's something which has been established by law, right? And we said laws are basically state laws, right? So it stands slightly outside the mainstream operations of government departments, right? But it is controlled by that department. If you look at the MRIA, right, it's an independent authority, right? But it's controlled by Ministry of Finance. That's it. You are aware of that? Yes. MRI is controlled by Ministry of Finance, straight, direct, right? And partly by Ministry of Trade and Industry, because that's where the revenue is. So they have to go there and check again who's importing, not exporting, who's doing what. Finance goes to check on how much have you collected. Can you say you have collected 20 million when you have collected 30 million? Can you take 10 million, give DPP and do a campaign? Things like that. So out of record. So these are the things that help to control certain activities. You have foreign exchange control, for example, by the Reserve Bank of the banks around. It emanates from the same regulatory policies. The Reserve Bank has policies on all financial transactions to regulate the economy of the country, how it runs, and find that the Reserve Bank is a government entity, right? Independent, very independent, but answers to the Minister of Finance, answers to the Minister of Finance, right? So this is how these policies work. This you need to take note of that. So these are important when it comes to actual operations on the ground. And we'll be dealing with a lot of organizations, with a lot of people trying to help those people around. You should be able to understand what policies will help what. I told you that as social workers, your tools are one, you have the policy, right? two, you have the laws, two, you have the operational procedures, right? So you have the procedures and you have the ethics, conduct, principles that you follow. These are things that they're also regulating your work, right? So in social work, we have our own regulatory mechanisms to ensure that you work the way you are supposed to do. Operational procedures, if you want to deal with an issue of child adoption, for example, you're not just going to say, oh, Victoria, umafuna mwana, no, you not do that. There are procedures we follow. You must check. Why is Victoria looking for a child? And the law is there. Adoption Act is there. It will tell you. Anybody wishing to adopt a child must fulfill the following, right? Victoria cannot adopt a boy who is 21 years. Will be suspicious. Will be suspicious. See? So the law is very, very clear. It will tell you that the individual adopting a child, right? There must be a difference of 21 years in age. So if Victoria wants to get a child who is 21 years as an adopted child, that Victoria must be 42 years old and older, 42 years and older. What it means is that we're trying to create that difference where if the child adopted a boy and the adoptive parent is a woman, there shouldn't be that connection where I say, but of course people talk about Madonna and this and Madonna, that's our own game there. That's not our problem. About what? About the Madonna's son. No, it's too much stuff. Those are practical issues outside. Once an adoption has passed, it's not none of our business. It's not even none of the concern of government. Because they're an independent entity, they're a family, they are gone, and you do those things around like that. Now, we also have over and above what we discussed here, what we call constituent policies. Constituent policies. You find just now your number 5. These policies are normally a lot of trouble. Next time I'll just put my bucket down there. Each one of you should be throwing my 20 kwacha mpaka zikuenele laptop. It will take how many years? No, how much are these things? Second hand, you can get something like 20. Yeah, so here, constituent policies normally are directly dealing with establishments and operations of government structures. That's why they are constituent. You get my point? Establishments in what? These policies are established to guide the operations of government structures. So you could have something like a structure created by government, right? How does it operate? Malawi Social Action Fund, right? It's an entity. How does it operate? Right? So there will be policies within that entity, but they must feed into, because they are constituent to, right? Public policy. They have to answer to public policy. They have to answer to developmental policies. They have to answer all those things that are public in nature. So these usually we look at the issues of how they fit into the actual policies that yeah, okay. So As I said, policies are rules and regulations, and they help to guide the operations and also ensure that the goals are achieved, and simply that is it. Now, let's look at the last point. And I like this one on this one here, on policies as a whole. Right. What do you think comes to people's mind or yourself for you to have a policy or to design a policy? What comes to mind? What influences policy formulation, for example? What influences development or formulation of policies? Can be? Okay. Twambi, Victoria. Okay, yourself, you are looking straight into my eyes. That's fine. What do you think influences public policy, private policy, whatever it is, and all these things that we have gone through? And I like this question always. See later. Give 3 factors that can influence policy in government. All right, to come there. I like that. Just to exercise your mind, see whether you understood it, whatever it is. I'll just say social policy. I will say influencing policy in government or formulation of policy. Stop it. I'll leave it there as a question. It can give you quite a lot of work to think about it. Are you going to write it or answer as policy, as presented? Are you going to delve into looking at it, issues of social policy? Are you going to give us the examples of the models, things like those, right? It becomes quite an interesting area. And let's look at factors. Factors. Social policy. I'll put it like that, but put this one in a bracket. So that it could be factors that influence policy or those that influence social policy. 1. Is economy. Most policies, government policies, everywhere, in most cases, are influenced by the economic factors. So the economic factors. The structure of the economy of a particular government or state will dictate the type of policies that country is going to have on its public policy, right? And also, it will also have an influence and also an impact on other types of policies, right? Organizational, and as you go down, or the private policies and something like that. So, where the economy is very strong, governments will have policies that will be able to address issues, whether it is about the social policy or just generalized policy, or it is about the wellness of the people in that particular country, right? The stronger the economy, the more governments will have policies which address issues of people's well-being. You have heard of what we call the welfare states. Have you heard of welfare state? Anybody? Welfare state? Welfare states are states or countries where their policies provide services to people subsidized or just given out to protect those people from economic shocks, right? Or social and economic shocks, whereby the policies under the welfare states, they provide for an employment benefit. You're not employed, but you get paid, right? Yeah, end of the month, you also get something to keep you going, a livelihood. Yes. So you have to rent electricity, water, right? You have to have your health care, your children's education, and your food. So government will give you those things for you to live like anybody. You not enjoy the other luxuries like people who get paid because they work, but they give you a minimum standard to keep you going, right? Those are what we call welfare states. All developed countries have welfare states. There are welfare states where all their people are covered through what you call the social security system, where people are registered, recorded, and you just get everything paid for free. Now, if it was in Malawi, all of us would not work. Just sit home and be receiving and be eating. Yes. It's quite interesting. In America, it is there very strong. In Canada, all developed countries, Germany, France, England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, all those places, Iceland. So you don't work, but at least you get something. You can eat, you can do whatever it is. So sometimes they give you coupons. So you have just a book for that month. You just go into one of the supermarkets, you say ShopRite. It's specific for your livelihoods, right? So you get your groceries, whatever it is, but till you just sign, you'll get that thing. Once you have paid, you go. You get that paper to government will pay ShopRite. You go. That's what they do. But it's specific to be food. So if you want chicken, rice, this, bread, stock, margarine, this, and also burgers, and what they'll give you. Yeah. So you don't have to suffer. Yeah, right here, that's the system that we, even in government, we are having cards, you just need cards. But that is not part of, that one is part of the control, of how you control your expenditure. Because if you give me 500,000 cash for fuel, moving it in my pocket every day, filling station fuel, I'll be filling 20,000 kwacha, and you get 980,000 kwacha used for something else. Then whatever it is, but you have a card, you cannot. There must be a card. But here they still negotiate with the attendants. That's why attendants are very rich. Person mafuda at 20, I say. Yes, that's initiative. Yes. How they do that? You go, okay, muli 200,000, tandi ikirani 50,000 mafuta. Yako take 25 barrels on the bus. So the attendants is very happy to get 25 for that. How many people go there? Then you have 3, 4, 5, 10 people, and you do that. So welfare states actually provide for that because their economies are big economies, right? They have the money, they have the resources, they produce, manufacture, export, and get their income. So strong economies also have their policies well structured and also they're influenced by the economy. I remember when I was working stroke studying in America. These guys are given those coupons, and they know it's a Friday. Now, Friday, they know they need to party around, but they can't get beer on those coupons, no. Right? So they go negotiate with the guy on the till to punch in the cost of a beer, they'll carry whiskey, right? The cost of whiskey is so much, so that they negotiate with that guy to punch it is meat, chicken, that, and so forth, so they can get the whiskey out. And the remainder, the shopman also gets around. So I said, black is a black everywhere. The black man everywhere are negotiating for these things. And the till is empty. There's a Mzungu party that's not to go there. But you want to go party, but you black msaj. Oh man, but I whisker for that's a weekend, man. Thank God it's Friday. Oh yeah, but I made there. So such things are what we call the human character. So sometimes even when the policies are so good, you find that the human character also can have influence on how things work, right? In Malawi here, for example, let's give an example of Malawi. Malawi is very poor. You think so? Yes, Malawi is a developing country based on economic indicators, right? GDP, GNP, whatever it is, all those things. It is very poor. But in real terms, when you look at Malawi, is Malawi very poor? Why should somebody have 60 billion in his account when somebody has nothing in the account? And some people have all those guys around.
The thing is, those who are rich, they are rich. They have seconds. The poor are still poor, while those who are making money are still making money. There is what do we call them?
Lower, middle, upper. But the question is, our poverty is created, self-created, where the money, the wealth revolves around the same people, right? If it is in a family, to be in the family. Other families are suffering just like that, to be there and there. So many billions is stolen. We hear of Kashkit, right? All that money was supposed to be distributed to people, but is in a family. And that family cannot release because they are worried they'll be caught. So it's just in the house, the ceilings and whatever it is, and yeah, something like that. But now, the issue is the human character, umuntu. Do you enjoy that money? In your own meaning, you can't go anywhere. You just have the money, you can't do anything, right? I can give you an example, a very simple example. Yeah? You know you have a lot of money, and people know that you have a lot of money, right? And you know that you got that money illegally or through illicit means, right? Okay. When you go into ShopRite and people know you, they say that, they'll check on what you're buying. You buy very expensive things, people say, right? So you want to calm down so that people don't talk about that. Start buying small things around and so on. They'll say, see your jet. Yeah, so you are actually in a situation where you don't know what to do, right? You go in a club, golf club, civil, Portuguese club, you're asking for whiskey, Blue Label. Blue Label is very expensive. It's not easy to get. They'll say, Blue Label, we'll do and you are not comfortable. Eh? You said, okay, kitabu inatanipa sana niko toti ya jini kapena kastera zata. So your psyche, your personality, your everything just goes. So you can see the implication of certain things that when you do, actually they affect you and your livelihood, right? There was a time when I gave an example. At room 6 muziti kirembe room anaikondesesa kwambiri koma hiyo siku si kumkonda kwene kwene. No, the problem is we have no tuck shop, we have no chan, and some of us in Nakuru are mafuna mazi chan and something like that. Yeah. So you have to drive home and drive back. It's very expensive. We need those services around. Yeah. So I was looking at how your human character can affect you sometimes, right? You do certain things that you are not supposed to do, and you find yourself, the psyche in yourself does affect you. And it's not only you, it becomes an intergenerational disgrace. Intergenerational disgrace. If there is an individual, say you're involved in this illicit trade, whatever, or cash gate and so on, it's not only you, right? The madam working in Musika, they say, right? The children at school, the same things. I was dealing with a family where a child up to now is refusing to go to school. I'll give you an example. one time. Yeah, yeah. Was in Kamu's academy, and is in class. They start mocking that child. You are coming to Kamu's academy paying fees from the money which your father stole through Cashgate. No, so he mocks that boy. Just left academy and came back here and told the father, you are paying fees from the money you stole from Cashgate. I'm not going to school anymore. That boy says, I'm not going to go to school. You can see the implications of some of our characters as individuals. It can go beyond your personal enjoyment, right? So it is important. So policies are influenced by the economy. So the stronger the economy, the more government policy is able to address social problems, right? The more government is able to address and provide social services, and vice versa. The more government addresses social problems and provides social services, the more the population becomes healthier, right? And it feeds back into the economy. A healthy person is a person who can work and produce, right? It means they'll be able to produce and bring that back into the economy. That's why in the morning we talked about income distribution, and production, right? When we looked at the poverty, it's not this class, something else. Oh, good. It was a different class. We're looking at poverty and how we measure poverty. Is the income of the people in the country, right? And also how that income is distributed amongst people. And lastly, also how there's production, manufacture, export, and import to build that economy. So economy is one factor which influences your social policy. Number two, political policies. When I say political policies, I just put it in quotes. Party politics, for example, or party policies or ideologies, right? An ideology is something that a particular party or a leaning of a particular party towards what they believe in as their right way of doing things. That's an ideology. If you want to become a socialist or you want to become a cadet, your political party wants to have cadets. That's your leaning. Your ideology will be empower the youth to champion the slogan and the ideologies of your party. So you choose. It's a policy issue, right? Give them pangas to Azika Power is your policy. It will define your policy. And that too can define the social policy of the country. So social policies of any country are highly determined by the nature and type of the political philosophy of the country. So the philosophy of a party has a lot of implications on the social policy of that particular country. Very serious. So the philosophy and the ideology of a party will actually have a lot of influence on what the political or that country's policies are going to be.
Ideology of what?
The philosophy and ideology of a political party has a lot of implications on the pattern or the path that their policies will take. If you want to address issues of the ultra poor, dealing with the poor people on the ground, your ideology and your philosophy to deal with those things there, you find that your policies will be targeting those guys. Example, Joyce Banda wanted to identify herself with too much of poor people on the ground, right? Her policies were about that. Never stay in the office, always beating in the villages, meeting the Mandas people, one cow, one family, all those things. That was her political ideology, to meet the people. So find that even the budgeting had to put more money into those activities because she has to be there. The party wants that, and that defines the type of policies that the government took at that particular time. And you find that socialist political philosophies always look at what we call egalitarian type of social policies, equality. If you go far east, you will find that governments will talk so much about equality between individuals, right? But sometimes they talk about equality in terms of status, whatever it is, income and income distribution. But these are things as just on paper. In practice, sometimes you don't find these things around. Okay. You can't talk about gender equality in the Arab countries. They'll tell you, yeah, we have gender equality here. But in some countries, women are not supposed even to drive, right? Afghanistan now has banned university education for all women. So women are not supposed to go to the university in Afghanistan. Yeah. And what they want is stay home, more children. They need more soldiers. So just be there, children around. Okay. And the state of security of a country may also determine the type of social policy the country will pursue. If a country is highly threatened, right, by violence or insecurity, the policies will focus so much on security, and it means more budgets going into the security of the country at the expense of social services. So they would spend more on security than what they would do on education and health and something like that. And if you look at the countries that are actually at war, you find that most of their budgets have gone to war, right? They have forgotten about whatever things are supposed to be there. I was just being, I was laughing at what happened. My daughter was in Ukraine. She just came back. She's home. When the war started and all sorts of things. I was telling what happened after the war and how she was running from Ukraine to Poland, Slovakia, and back to Malawi. He says, those guys are very prepared. Say, what is it? To her, it was a story to me. But to me, it went back to politics, right? And policies and security issues. He says, when war broke around, people had no time to get their foods, whatever it is. They are just running away. But at every point where you went in, there will be hostels, whatever it is, hotels, everything was free. Clothing, you just change, you put on new ones, shoes, hotel, you go in the hotel, you just sleep and eat, you move on. Trains and buses were just free to get people out. So because of the security issue, the social policy changed completely. It created an environment where everybody should be evacuated, right? And be safe and whatever it is and so forth, all the way. And she had no passport because she had to run away, leave the passports around. So wherever you go, yes, you're African, just move on. You see what you're going to have. You just move on, something. Until at some point they close that. If you're black, whatever it is, you have no passport, you can't move. Because I'm told some other people from other countries, Nigeria, whatever, took advantage to go to Europe and say, we are running from war in Ukraine. So you can see how issues of human character can also shape the policy. So they stopped. You cannot just be free as a refugee because you are now getting too many North Africans, Nigerians, getting into Europe. Why? We're running away from war from Ukraine. We're in Ukraine. But when actually they wanted to go to Germany, France, and other places. So these are the things that we're just mentioning here. Human character can also have an influence on the social policy of the country. And political motives also can have an impact. What does that state or government want to achieve at any one particular point? So that too will have an impact on the policy. If you want to create wealth, then you see what type of policy can create wealth. You want to improve agriculture, it will be up to you to pick up on what you think can be used to improve that. Lastly, cultural factors. Cultural factors can also affect or influence policy. The social policy government wishes to pursue sometimes takes consideration of the culture of the people, right? Religion, education, health, and things like those. If our education policy in Malawi just said we want only Christians to be in the schools, there will be war, right? Because it will be discriminatory. That's why you find it, the policy is very, very open to accommodate different cultures, right? Where you're a Muslim, you're a Seventh Day, or whatever it is, you're a pagan, you're a Satanist, you still go to school. I've heard of stories of Satanism in secondary schools, whatever, which I don't believe in anyway. But does it exist?
They exist, but people they take advantage of it. Sometimes they don't know it's there. At some point it happens, then it stops commanding or they continue as if it's still there.
So policies can be affected or influenced by the culture of a nation or even a community, right? So social policies must take consideration of all these issues: the economy of the country, the political leaning, ideologies, cultural factors, and things like those. Therefore, in a summary, social policies can be influenced from different angles, depending on how government views its own priorities. What is our priority? And that government decision on a priority area has quite a lot of implications on policy design and also formulation. So I think we have done enough for that. And thank you. Let's see how we proceed. Any question, please? Any observation?